And we're going to jump straight in, and I'm going to let each of you do a quick intro on each other. I really challenged them. I'm like 30 seconds, guys. Go hard.
Hi, I'm Michelle Vitus, founder and CEO of Slate. We are an AI-enabled leadership and career transition coaching platform, and I am super passionate about the integration of human plus AI coaching to drive growth.
Well, thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Faith. I'm Jacob Taylor. I'm a fellow at the Center for Sustainable Development at Brookings. I'm an anthropologist of team performance and work at Brookings on new ways to shape human-AI collaboration, approaches like vibe teaming and context maxing. And I also run a boutique consultancy called Two Hands, which is a human performance lab.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Al D. I'm the founder of The Edge of Work. I'm an advisor, I'm a speaker, and I work with organizations to help them navigate change in the workplace. In addition to that work, I also host a podcast called The Edge of Work.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for introducing yourselves. I appreciate that. Well done on the timing, too. Nice job. We're gonna jump in, because the most exciting part is still to come, right? So, again, we have talked about how AI improves individual performance, creates individual productivity gains, et cetera. But there is also research out there that says that there are short-term gains, limited gains, and these things are not necessarily translating into the bigger team organization. So all of this might come at a cost, and that cost is potentially the individual's agency. And so we are seeing people use AI in a way that currently creates cognitive offload, overload, erosion of critical thinking, and coping. And so it can be actually counterproductive to individuals in the long run. So my question here, and I'm gonna start with you, Jacob, is what do we need to do differently to capture performance gains at the team level without really diminishing the human agency? And why is it that teams might actually hold the key to being able to do that?
So yeah, I'm a believer that AI is a team sport, and teams actually hold the key to unlocking a lot of value and also managing some of the downside risks of AI. But I want to just very quickly, if we could step it back and level set a little bit on the technology that we're talking about, because it's really important for this conversation, which is that despite all the rapid progress in models and technology, really we're still talking about, with LLMs, a foundation model and a context window. And really it does keep boiling down, despite these gains, on how well you assemble the context and information that you put in the context window at each query. These models are stateless, probabilistic, they rely on that rich and accurate information to do a good job. And so in that context, I think teams have a unique role to set the agenda for that context. And for me, the from to here is going from AI as tool to AI as teammate. I think in an AI as tool paradigm, you have a lot of individual level task assisted work with AI, which is potentially great, but really the value of that work is only ever defined at the team level. Teams ship products, teams write reports that get read or not. And so if individuals are using AI as a tool, that quality can only be defined at the team, and so you get these kind of like problems of AI slop or slop cannons where the team has to deal with it at the end and correct it and so on. If you flip the script on that and say AI as a teammate, you start with the team, and this has been a common theme today, which has been amazing to hear. Start with a team human conversation, record it, transcribe it, use that as shared context that then sets the agenda for task level work, where your AI systems are starting with team context as a starting point and going from there.
Yeah, I love that super practical pro tip. I also know Al had some really great thoughts on this, so I'm sorry. Yeah, let's hear from you. We're going to hear from you, and then we're going to have Michelle jump in.
Go for it.
I'm glad to hop in. So in addition, I think we need to move beyond the everyone go experiment mentality. And what I mean by that is at the team level, we need to define what we're trying to achieve as a team with AI. And then individuals can go out and experiment and bring those learnings back to the team. And that's how team performance gets driven. Within our team at Slate, we're integrating that into our core team meetings as a rhythm of what are you experimenting with? What's working? What's not? What do we want to pull into our team as a shared way of working? And so that ends up creating a team rhythm where we're making each other better.
Ooh, teams to make each other better. Love that. Al, I know I teased you a moment ago. So let's give you a chance to share some of your great thoughts here. So as AI is speeding up things, it's the velocity of things is massive with it, right? Where are teams breaking? Like both Jacob and Michelle have shared some really practical things for how to integrate it, but also teams are still breaking and we're not getting that organizational gain. So what does that, knowing that, what does that really reveal about where we've been underestimating teams and the humans in those teams?
Yeah, one of the things I think about to your question is that it actually exposes something that I think is a gap that exists today, but really is just exposed by AI, which is the way we often look at company performance is based off of the organizational performance. But the way that we measure and account for performance is done at the individual level. And there's a gap, because if I am incented as an individual to perform to my OKRs or KPIs, but there's no incentive for me to look at things in a cross-functional manner, well then how do I go from doing something from the individual to optimizing for the collective? And what I think we're seeing, as Michelle pointed out, particularly when we start to experiment with these tools or start to incorporate them as individuals, it can help you become more productive as an individual. But I think what it's also showing us, and that we've been underestimating, is that most of us work in a world where it is more than just the decks we create or the deliverables that we create, where our impact is actually much greater than that. And so going back to your question about what we're underestimating or what this is exposing, I think it's showing us and telling us and shining a light back on us that unless we actually start to think about things in a more collective manner, we're going to miss the opportunity to really actually raise the impact, because doing things on your own and getting those transactional gains is fine, but if that's all we ever get, we've invested a heck of a lot just to make us 5 or 10% better.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out. Jacob, what are you learning? You're learning some new things in this space.
I think the big thing we're learning and talking about at the moment is cognitive agency. And it's great, again, today's theme is agency, but really we're trying to draw policymakers and other actors who have power in this space to think about the way this technology is disrupting at a new level of cognition that's unprecedented. It's really mediating our thoughts and actions and intentions in a way that we haven't seen before across so many different surface areas. And so in that context, we want to think about how to get humans back in the game of like having control, having command, having grasp over the technology. And generally speaking, that works best in a team because humans are the original generative model. Just, we are creative by nature, and we multiply that when we get together with others. Faith says something that triggers something in me that I wouldn't have said if you didn't say that, and then Michelle says something, and then Al says something, and all of a sudden we're on this exponential ramp of human creativity. And it turns out that kind of context or human creation is exactly what the models need to perform well. So there's a huge synergy here, but I think humans in default AI paradigms that we're in at the moment, humans aren't close enough to the metal of this technology. We need to be getting in there and building new types of competencies like with the technology where we understand how to manage and really harness that context.
Yeah. Great call out.
I'll add one more thing on that
Please.
one. So I think we're also underestimating teams in that teams are more than just a coordination mechanism. They are a place where judgment and trust and learning takes shape. So that's an important addition.
So I really like the call out on the learning and the learning together. I'm a big learning geek. And I think that's really important. And I think the other thing that you're naming and that has been alluded to here is around how AI is really impacting team dynamics. And what we know is that it amplifies whatever is currently happening, and that's true for both the tech stack and the tech system, but also your human system as well. So with AI being part of a team, we're talking about making it a team member, or at LinkedIn, we would talk about it as a trusted team member. Knowing that it's amplifying literally everything, but especially on the team and human front, what do we need to change?
So AI certainly makes clarity and trust critical for a team. And if there's confusion on a team, that you're only going to be doing more in the wrong direction as a team if you don't get that clarity. So we need to be clear on what our strategy is, how roles are changing and taking shape in new ways, what the guardrails are. And then on the trust front, trust is critical. I think about in our own team in our own team's experience. So as we've been building and integrating a voice AI coach, I want to ensure that our team is willing to question the outputs. I want to ensure our team feels safe to challenge assumptions. I want to ensure that people are speaking up. And I want people to be able to voice their uncertainties. So we've had coaches who are a member of our team who have been concerned that their role is going to disappear. And it won't. In my opinion, there is always going to be a place for human coaching that has empathy and trust and accountability. But the important part there is we need to give teams space to voice those uncertainties and say, hey, I'm concerned about that, and to help them understand the vision of where they fit in and how they can shape the future.
I agree with every bit of that. Fun fact, I jokingly start almost every meeting with, I actually have a very love-hate relationship with AI. I love to use it daily, and I hate it at the same time. And candidly, some people will be like, let me stop the recording. So when you talk about safety, like that's such an important piece of it. Al, would love to hear some of your thoughts on this too.
Sure. Well, the first thing I thought about when you were talking about, what can we do now with all of these capabilities that we have, and I'm often reminded of the Peter Drucker quote of, there's nothing as useless as doing something efficiently that you shouldn't be doing in the first place. And when you do have all these new capabilities that you now have on your team, I think the most important question really stems and starts with, well, what is the work that is actually worth doing? Because you can, because it does amplify whatever you make choices about what you choose to do, you want to make sure that you're amplifying it towards the right kinds of things. And that often starts with obviously understanding what it is capable of. But for that matter, it also starts with understanding what your team and your humans on there are also capable of, which I would argue we should have probably always been doing, which I think hits on the other point that I was going to make, which I think it actually tells us stuff that we've probably known all along that perhaps we take for granted, which is being clear about norms, delegating, giving thoughtful, nuanced feedback. None of that stuff is sexy, but it's effective, and it's really important. But I think sometimes we just take that for granted. But when you start to throw, like a teammate like AI into the mix, which again can help bring awareness to some of these things or shine a light on some of these things, I think it just actually just amplifies the things that we probably should have been doing all along that collectively sometimes we just forget.
Yeah. So I hear you on, it's circling back to the basics, essentially. You have to be really good at the basics. And I'm going to throw a follow-up in here that I didn't give any of you warning on, so congratulations on today's surprise. Really, the thing we run into is, so as we're working on team programs at LinkedIn, one of the things we're looking at is what should your teaming agreement look like once you've integrated AI into your workflow. And it is a bit surprising sometimes how many teams come back and say, we don't really need to do that. We're all using AI and everything is fine. Everything is good. Would love to hear, just super quick from each of you, how do we combat that? How do you get teams on board with recognizing that they do actually need to reset those expectations? And I'm gonna have you jump in, Michelle, and then we'll just go down the line.
Yeah, so I think one thing that a lot of people will recognize is that the boundaries of a role start to shift as AI gets integrated. And so So at a minimum, you need to define like, what are our points for checking in with each other? Because someone who traditionally didn't do marketing or some other piece of the workflow is capable of starting to pick up some of that. And so it's like ensuring that you've got the right touch points for communication so that you're not duplicating work, stepping on each other's toes, increasing tension, et cetera.
Yeah, we see a lot of that roles disruption, and someone last week at a conference called it, likened it to ego death, which was kind of, Burning Man meets Silicon Valley, I think. But I think that needs to be managed. Does anyone feel like when they're interacting with these systems systematically, it's kind of like a bit of a dance more than a press a button, and there's a kind of poetry at times, frustration at other times. I think for me and in teams, what we're seeing is like encouraging teams and users to get in the mode of like, this is an ongoing, iterative, dynamic relationship with an inexhaustive piece of tech that just is relentlessly going to turn up to any question you have for it. In that context, it's a bit of a paradigm shift from previous SaaS, other forms of tech, which is like press a button and it does a thing, specify your norms and you can have your team now. It's like, this is an iterative, dynamic dance between teams and systems that we need a new set of competencies for, and maybe just the 3 that we've put out recently are being able to really specify and what's at the heart of the special sauce of your team, being able to orchestrate in a really smart way with these systems that manages their constraints, and then the biggest one for teams is exploration. So are you using the efficiency gains of specifying well, of orchestrating well? Are you redeploying that to explore new frontiers of value creation, new things that were never thought of previously on the team? If not, then you're missing out on the value proposition for this technology, I feel.
So I think the way that I would reframe that question is more around this idea of what do I, or what does we as humans want to bring and commit to this team and in these interactions. I think the value of human trust, I think, will rise as there's more and more things that are created that are both human and not human. And so the way that I would actually frame that in that collective, that team dynamic are, what are the things that we want to commit to as human beings that we want to bring in this interaction on a team, so that I know that my peers who are human beings on this team know what I mean, or that they know that what they can rely on me for, or that they are going to honor and bring to the table. Like, I think that to me seemed more of being able to be proactive and to go on offense versus being reactive and going on defense and starting first with AI and then just penciling in where the human should fit. I think it needs to be the other way around.
Yeah, I think those are all great call-outs. Curious to hear, for once that wasn't me. I'm so excited. Not that I do that a lot. So we're talking about all of this. We're talking about the teams, but there's people who lead the teams too. So an additional follow-up question here. What does this mean for the managers of those teams? And Al, I'm going to let you start on this one.
It's a great question. I mean, going along a similar thing, I think what we're finding out is that great managers matter, like they always have, and they will. I think you can make an argument that to a certain degree, as more and more people use these teammates, everyone will sort of be practicing the skill of management in some way, shape, or form. Delegating to a human might be different than providing context to an LLM, but there's certainly some similarities in terms of what's there. And then I think the other thing that's really important for managers is I think there's an opportunity, again, when I was saying before about what is the work that needs to be done, I think an opportunity for people leaders is once you start to use more and more of these teammates and tools in the work that you do, is to actually think about work design and to think about, well, what truly, if I have these new capabilities, if I can do all these things, how do I design work in a way where my humans and all of my resources can actually drive the greatest impact? And I think some managers and leaders think about that today. I don't think collectively enough of them do, but I see that as an opportunity space as we use this more and more for managers.
I love the work design comment. Often the greatest opportunities for impact with AI are not just bolting on AI onto an existing workflow, but really rethinking the workflow, redesigning the workflow. And I think the role of the manager becomes increasingly a capability builder.
I think those are all great call-outs, and we're gonna help the manager, because you've all mentioned how much work they had ahead of them, right? And we know from recent research too, Gallup just released some information about how managers are currently the most disengaged population in the workforce right now, and at levels that we haven't seen before. And what we hear in LinkedIn is a lot of that is because it is a very tough spot to be in, where you're translating the senior leader's vision into something that's operational and that can perform, while also trying to support your team members who want to be human and who are having to use AI all the time, whether they like it or not, et cetera. So what we want to leave you with today is our goal for the last 9 minutes that we have is going to help managers and leaders, ICs, go hard, whoever wants to jump in on this. But I want each of you to propose one next step. Because again, I can't hit this hard enough, studies are showing that you get individual gains from AI, but it's just still not showing up at the team and org level. So what is one step, what's the first step that teams should take to turn it into performance in a way that still protects the humans? And what I want us to do is, as you answer, we're gonna build on each other, or challenge. I'll allow you to challenge, although I don't. You guys vibe pretty well, so I don't know if we're gonna have much challenge here. So build or challenge, we don't wanna walk away with 3 ideas. We wanna give this audience one really concrete idea that they can implement within the next quarter. So that's what we wanna provide.
So one each, or one that we all collaborate on together?
We're gonna collaborate on it. You're collaborating on stage.
Oh no, we've got to eat
You
my
all
own
got
dog
this.
food now.
You're gonna start us, Jacob.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, but I said tool from AI from tool to teammate. I want to push that one more step, and it's AI as team infrastructure. And infrastructure is a bit of a suitcase word that means a lot of things, but basically it's like, do you have shared digital information that you can all access that captures your team's value, purpose, what good looks like? And that is a real step that managers need to think about before they deploy. But the beauty of AI is that now a lot of this information digitally is just stored in text on markdown files. It ain't that hard for us anymore. And by the way, we have AI to help us coach us through the technicalities at the same time. So get close to the metal and think about infrastructure for teams as much as just tools or even teammates, which are kind of just like dressed up tools. I don't know.
Michelle.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Building on that shared infrastructure. Integrate shared AI learning into your team rhythms. So you've got the infrastructure, you've got the team rhythms, and that's motivating. It takes the fear out, and really more energizing for the team.
So to build off of that, the last thing I would add, I call it the alignment loop. As a leader, I think you've got 3 tools: what you say, what you do, and what you reward. And so just take what these 2 talked about and put it through that loop in terms of how you talk about the shared infrastructure, right? How you actually go and build it collectively with the team. How you champion people who are modeling whatever those behaviors that are. For learning, share what you're learning. Encourage groups of people to come together so they can learn together. Champion when people start sharing what they're learning of what works and what doesn't work. And so if you do that alignment loop through those 2 things, I think you'll start to see collective progress and not just individual progress.
So you all did, they're up here congratulating each other.
Like, that's not bad.
You asked us to be a team. We're like, all right.
Yeah, very good.
Teaming, everybody, this is how it's done. Okay, we have just a few minutes left, so you all have great ideas, and we thought really hard about what the right way to present these to the audience was, but we have a few minutes, and so I'd really love to hear, is there anything else top of mind that we need to know about teams before we head out? Go for it, Al. I can tell you, I see you.
Well, I shared this when we talked, but I really do think teams in general and focusing on team effectiveness is an untapped opportunity in most organizations. I think I said this and alluded to this in the beginning, but we focus so much on measuring individual performance and company performance, but most work gets done on teams. And I think to me, the thing I always take away from this is that it's really embracing that idea of we can do more and we can drive greater impact when we think about how the individual fits in the collective. And really figuring out how do we not just think about this as better, faster for myself, but to the growing the impact of whatever we're trying, metric it is collectively that we're trying to optimize for. And I just think there's a lot of opportunity to look at the collective and the integrated or the cross-functional nature of teams, even before AI and then even more so now.
What comes to mind for me is the Work Trends Index that Microsoft released last week. And what stood out was, as they were looking at drivers of real AI impact, the organizational factors, which were things like manager support and culture, were driving more than 2x of the AI impact versus the individual factors of individual mindset and adoption. So don't underestimate the power of not only the team, but the culture.
Yeah, maybe just to build on that, and I'm an anthropologist kind of hanging out incognito at a policy think tank, but if I didn't draw our attention to the public policy dimension of this, I probably wouldn't be doing my job. So I'll try and end there. But I think teams are often only as good as the environments that they're situated in. And if you're talking about a company or a firm, teams need policies. And communities need policies at a national level. And so policies sound kind of boring as sawdust and cornflakes without milk or something, but they matter. And if you're a manager, as much as caring for providing love to your team, you also need to be an advocate above and beyond your team to get the policies your team needs to thrive. And that's hard work and less sexy than what we've been talking about kind of in the trenches with teams. But if you're a leader, you've got to do it. And your team can be a helping hand in telling you what they need and you then going up and asking for it.
Okay, all great call outs. So good stuff with teams here. We're going to wrap because it's been great talking with all of them and you. But the key takeaway here, folks, is teams is really what's going to make the difference in your AI strategy. So it's so important that you are not neglecting that layer in your organization if you want to actually see the AI gains that you want to see. And I think they've all made some really great call outs here about shifting it from individuals using it and testing it to doing it as a team, hearing Jacob talk about also be mindful of the human and what had the cognitive impact that this is happening. So I think using it more intentionally and more impactful is really important. And then Al talking to us about our managers and what our managers need to lean into and how it's a team sport and your manager is who's going to make that happen. So how do you invest in that layer to really make it successful? So with that, I'm just going to thank all of you for the really great conversation and thanks everyone for joining us.